Welkom terug by die groot ontbyt. Kyk, Gert is nou hier uit. Maar is lekker, want nou is al mooier mense. Want Gert is oulik, maar sien mooi om na te kyk.
Ai, jy's vir jou, Jessie.
Gert is so...
Kan jy dit sê nie?
Hy is soos 'n taai seun.
Nee, nee. Ek distansieer myself van jou af hierso.
Oh, okay, goed. Nou maar hier staan nou mooier mense in die ateljee as Gert, dink ek. Ek dink mense hier, ons is bevoorreg genoeg. Mense, ons is bevoorreg dat mevrou Suid-Afrika vanmôre hier by ons kuier. Op 17 November is die nuwe mevrou Suid-Afrika aangewys. En Tshego Gaelae is hier vanmôre. Good morning, Tshego.
Goeiemôre.
Daai het jy dit.
Hoe gaan dit?
Baie goed, baie dankie. Jy probeer baie hard Afrikaans praat, dis baie oulik.
Nie baie hard nie, probeer maar net.
Well done, well done, well done.
probeer
Tshego,
maar
congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Mevrou Suid-Afrika.
Thank you.
It must, I mean, the process. Tell us about the process. I mean, it sounds like you had 12 months to prepare for this event that now ended up with you being crowned as Mrs. South Africa. But I mean, it's a long build up to here, hey?
It's quite a long build up. So the casting happened in February, early February 2023. And then from there, we have a couple of events, a few workshops, a few networking sessions. The top 30 then gets announced in July 2023. Further events, fundraising events, networking, workshops, and then the crowning on the 17th of November, which was like the biggest surprise for me, you know? So yeah, very pleasantly surprised, very honored to have been crowned Mrs. South Africa more than anything else. Very honored, very honored.
Why did you decide to take part in Mrs. South Africa?
I think the decision that led to me eventually venturing into Mrs. South Africa was because I needed to find a larger sense of purpose for myself. I think I'd gotten into more of a rut or routine, you know, your normal, your daily job, you're a wife, you're a mom, and you start wanting to feel a bit more, you know. I was already very keen about charitable events, charitable organizations, having my own charity organization that I wanted to then launch. But more so, I wanted to engage with like-minded women, meet new people, new women from different walks of life, and just engage with them on a different level, to learn things about myself, to learn things about life, to learn things about them. And I think that's what led to me taking the decision to enter Mrs. South Africa. I think I got that and a whole lot more, you know, when I came out with an entire crown.
I think that's what's, to me, what is so unique and precious about Mrs. South Africa. It is a reimagining and a rediscovery of, like you say, of purpose and of aspiration and of I'm not saying Miss South Africa isn't a good pageant. I'm just saying Mrs. South Africa has so much more on the bone, if you know what I mean.
Absolutely. I think you're right in what you're saying, and what I'd extend what you're saying. How I would extend it is to say that Mrs. South Africa is more than just a pageant. I actually wouldn't call Mrs. South Africa a pageant. It's literally like a launching pad. And further to what you're saying, I think if I were to theme my entire journey of Mrs. South Africa, it was literally the reignition of self. So many of my aspirations that I think I had put to bed, I had sort of accepted that they probably wouldn't come true, were reignited in my journey with Mrs. South Africa. So it's more for me than just a pageant. I wouldn't, sure, we ascribe to the international pageant standards, but it's definitely much more than a pageant. It's a launching pad. It's a platform for women to rediscover and reignite their inner ambitions, you know.
En ons gaan nou verder met gesels oor daai platform. Sorry, we just going to quickly go to the news first. En as ons terugkom, dan gesels ons verder met Tshego spesifiek oor wat 'n platform soos mevrou Suid-Afrika kan doen en hoe mense kan bemagtig en wat haar plan is om met hierdie platform te doen in die volgende jaar. Ons kuier verder met Tshego Gaelae. Sy is mevrou Suid-Afrika. Ons praat bietjie oor wat sy van plan is om met hierdie platform te bereik. Tshego, just before the news, we spoke about the platform of Mrs. South Africa and the possibilities that this platform holds. What are you going to do to make it your own this year?
I think that one thing that the journey for me reaffirmed is the power of authenticity. So for me to make it my own, I think I'm going to remain very much authentic. That has gotten me this far in my journey. But also I've realized how impactful it is to make people feel seen and heard, you know?
Yes.
I definitely didn't walk this journey by myself, and I want to use the platform to demonstrate the power of sisterhood. I made sisters and friends in the journey, and I think that is part of the reason why I got as far as I got. And I want to just highlight and really dispel the whole myth around women not wanting to see other women succeed. I want to show the power of sisterhood, the power of networking, the power of womanhood, and the power of authenticity more than anything. Women being themselves and being okay with being themselves, whether you are green, whether you are blue, whether you are big, small, whether you are bold, whether you are more meek, whether you are, you know, whatever uniqueness that you hold, be authentic in that and stand in your power. And I think for my reign, that's what I want to show the power of, you know, a woman being themselves and being authentic and strong in themselves.
You're also going to take part in Mrs. World.
I am.
Where is that taking place?
So the confirmation is not out yet where
Yes.
Mrs. World is going to be taking place, but I am so excited. I can't wait. So we're preparing now for the Mrs. South Africa who crowned me. Palisa Majikan is going off to Mrs. World now in January, and we are rooting for her. We are... I have all my faith in her. I have all my faith in her, and yeah, we're following her journey.
What kind of preparation do you have to do to take part in Mrs. World? Would it change from your preparation you did in Mrs. South Africa?
I think it's more of an extension of that preparation, you know. It's literally taking South Africa onto a world platform, you know. Knowing what you are taking onto that world platform. You're taking an entire country and representing that country onto the world platform. So it's more of an extension of the preparation that you'd have in a journey towards becoming Mrs. South Africa, taking Mrs. South Africa to the world, really.
What do you think are your qualities that made you stand out, that made you finally get this crown?
I think, apart from what I touched on earlier, my authenticity, I think relatability. I don't try to be superwoman. I mean, I try to be superwoman, but not really try to be superwoman, if you get what I mean. But I try to remain a relatable, ordinary South African woman doing her own thing, you know, trying to achieve goals while remaining authentic, being as real as possible as I can be, but also showing grace, you know. I've gotten as far as I've gotten because people showed me grace, and I think it's important to extend that grace to someone else, because it really elevates someone that much further, you know. I think it's one of the qualities that brought me as far as I came. I do think that I lead more from the back, as in lead to, when we are leading, we are doing it together, not instructing. And I think that's one of the things that I'm looking at myself from an outside perspective, admire about myself. Yeah, I think those are the qualities that I would highlight to say have taken me as far as they've taken me.
Let me ask you this, because I think a lot of people still have misconceptions or opinions about pageants. And I know you said you don't really want to call it a pageant, but people do. They look at Miss South Africa or Mrs. South Africa, Miss World, or whatever it is, and they go, is it still relevant? What is the point? Do we really empower women? Do we objectify women in those kind of pageants? What would you say to those people, and why do you think a platform like this is still relevant and important?
I think it's absolutely relevant and important to celebrate, not only to celebrate women, but to have women celebrate themselves. To imagine yourself at your most highest potential and to show up as her. To say, I want to see my body looking like this in a swimsuit and working towards that and being in a swimsuit and strutting your stuff on that stage and feeling as confident as you've ever felt. I think it's absolutely relevant. And especially now in 2023, when you talk about the issues that face women and it's more morbid and we talk about a lot of abuse that women face, we need to highlight more the empowerment that women go through. I mean, empowered women empower women. And platforms such as Mrs. South Africa, where you get to network and engage with women from different walks of life, established women, doctors, businesswomen, women in corporate, that in itself is empowering. But to actually share knowledge and experiences with one another is extremely empowering. And I think platforms such as Mrs. South Africa in giving you the opportunity to engage with other women like that and to see yourself at your most highest potential, showing up as her and being her and embodying her and celebrating her is absolutely relevant in a time as this.
Tshego, thank you so much for joining us. It has been lovely having you here, Mrs. South Africa, on our yellow couch. It has been great chatting to you, and all the best for your reign.
Thank you.
We're sure that it will be highlighted with a lot of love and a lot of grace and sincerity and honesty.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Hoe kan 'n mens nou nie gemotiveerd wees nie, nê? Daai het jy dit. Mevrou Suid-Afrika, Tshego Gaelae hier by ons in die ateljee.